Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Chassidus in the Morning. 15 minutes change our lives. So we're discussing, and we're discussing yesterday and have a good Chodesh for everyone. Chodesh Nisan. So we're discussing how we have to make sure to bring the carbon within ourselves, which has to be to be pure, complete. We have to make sure there's no blemishes, which means in terms of Vayikra, we have to look within ourselves and see where the mistakes are and where the things that need to be fixed. Where's our blemishes? Need to work on them. And so we also have to recognize that this is part of life, that we have blemishes. And we shouldn't get down on the fact we have blemishes. We should just figure out what can we do to fix these blemishes. And that's it. And that's all. And that's what we're saying here. But the question is, he's saying, so what we're up to, he goes, when a person meditates and everything we talked about yesterday, about realizing that we have sins, and even if we Baruch Hashem don't have anything to do tshuva on, so to speak, of sins now, but you have from the past that we didn't do tshuva properly, and even more, like it says in Tanya, and that's what he's bringing down, that told me that even though we did tshuva, then we reach a high level of more maturity, so there's more tshuva to be done. It's like recognizing the things in the past you made mistakes and appreciating how bad, like how not good they were. The older you get, when you were young, you did something wrong, it was stupid, and like, yeah, whatever. But as you get older, you're like, hey, that was pretty bad of me, and I really shouldn't have done that. And these different, deeper levels of tshuva that we're talking about. So if you're always looking at that way, you're looking at this, what's going to be, you're going to say to yourself, and you recognize how important bringing a carbon is. That the whole purpose of bringing a carbon is to consume, take up all the talents and all the capabilities and all the good things that we have, and be able to bring it up to the fire of Hashem. That the carbonis reach the height of the carbonis, reach up to the depth of the hiddenness of the Ein Sof. That's what we can do. The Harehu Shoyles, that's what we ask ourselves. What's with me in the carbonis? Hey, it's a yutz like the carbon avay b'shash ein b'masim. But I'm meant to bring a carbon. But I look at myself and I see all these issues. I have all these things I need to work on. I learned this and I'm looking at this thing. I say, I have all these problems. How am I going to bring a carbon? So how do we answer this? Today, let's not to answer this question. This is a beautiful verse. Moisif chak merch admer. The Vayikra adds al pirish admer zakain on the words of the Alter Rebbe. Lemila mikem, from you. Mikem ubachem davar toli, from mikem, from you, and on you is dependent. Meaning limrois mamadu matzavai behave ubavar. Even though my where I'm holding, whether now or in the past, talu adavar bachem. Nevertheless, even though I could be not in the right situation, not doing the right things, and I have plenty to work on, but I have to understand. And so the Vayikra adds from the word mikem, from you, which means bachem, totally adavar bachem. B'chol echad misol mesugulem, and every single yid is able to say masa yegiu ma'aseh l'ma'aseh v'yiseh av mitzvah Yaakov. When my actions are going to reach the actions of av mitzvah Yaakov. And this is such a beautiful word. He's saying we have to realize that we're going to come and say, what's going to be? I'm too far gone, chas v'shalom. How can I do all these things? I realize I'm not even close to being a carbon. So the Vayikra teaches us, Pasuk says, mikem, from your carbon, which means it's in our ability to do it. We can do it. Yes, you can. You can do it. And we are all able to say, when am I actually going to reach the action of my forefathers, Av mitzvah Yaakov? Meaning, and this is what I was talking about yesterday, that like when you learn Chassidus, if you don't see it properly, you're like, oh, I'm so bad. Look at this. Chassidus telling me to realize you're bad. If you think you're good because you don't do anything wrong now, you didn't do anything wrong in the past, so for sure you're bad. But we're not saying that. We're saying you have to realize we have what to work on. And we have to realize we have the potential to be like our forefathers. And this is sort of what we're trying to balance. And on one hand, you have to make an anish cheshbon, but not because to prove to yourself that you're not good, but to recognize that if I'm good, then why am I not achieving that greatness? And what do I need to be doing? What do I need to be changing? It's I think I said this in the beginning of the week, that the same story, the Vayikra that he was eating watermelon, and I heard this years ago, and when I didn't like, I heard Manashun talks about this. This is important in the Sikhs, and it was very confusing. But after you learn it a few times, you think about it, you get the point. And it's a very deep idea in chinuch. So what happens if Vayikra gets a watermelon? I think it was his grandmother brought him from wherever it was. That watermelon was like, the biggest tree in the world. And he takes watermelon, he goes out and he cuts it up and he shares with his friends, and they're all eating this watermelon. It's like, the biggest tree in the world in Lubavitch. And so afterwards, like half an hour later, the Rebbe Shab calls him into his office, and the Rebbe Shab says to his son, the Vayikra, he goes, Yosef, I don't remember what he called him. He said, I noticed that you shared your watermelon with your friends. He goes, but I noticed when you shared, you didn't share with the whole heart. Because when a Yid shares, he has to share with his whole heart. So at first glance, you look at it and you're like, man, like, why? Like, you're so rough. He's saying to him, you did something good, but it's really not that good. And so when I first heard it, I was like, and the Vayikra sends, he ends off this story, he goes, and this is chinuch. And I was telling myself, like, why? It's so intense. He did something good. He shared. Well, he could have ate it all himself, but he shares it. And he tells him, yeah, I know you shared it, but it wasn't really that good because you didn't do such a good job, because I could see you want really wholeheartedly. It's like, whoa, what a level. What do you want from him? But after understanding it, learning it a few times and hearing and thinking about it and realizing it's telling you it's a very deep part. At the Rabbi Shab was teaching his son, he's saying, you think you're satisfying yourself with just giving. But I know that in you have the ability to give wholeheartedly. You can give wholeheartedly. So don't settle yourself for second best. And we say to ourselves, you know what, at least I'm not doing the worst things. It's true, but why settle ourselves for second best? Let's be the best we can be. When can our actions be? We could ask ourselves, when can our actions be like the actions of Av Mitzvah Yaakov? You're not saying it's not because you have an ego, and it's for sure not because you think you're a nobody. And that's sort of the point, the message. And this is sort of the message his father's telling his son. The Rabbi Shah telling the Vayikra. He goes, you're not a nobody, you're not a nevach. You have greatness. So shine the greatness. It's true you gave, and it's very nice you gave. But I know you can give more. You can give wholeheartedly. And when you come with that attitude, it's uplifting. You pull the person up to a much higher level. Hey. Yeah. Well, the hey one tomorrow we'll finish. I say that Akarbanas is who, or maybe we'll finish it tomorrow. But just one more story, just to bring out this point. So I had, and I think this is a very important point. I had a kid once in camp, and he was like this, wild kid. And I knew going into it, I knew him, when I grew up in Melbourne, everyone knows each other. And when I knew he's going to be my bank, I was like, the troublemaker. And one thing I got taught before camp started was when you speak to a child, there's two different types of children, kids, but the regular normal kids, when you ask them to do something, you base it off their friends. And then they not want to do it. So I learned this, I understood it. So it came the first night of camp, and everyone's trying to get everyone to bed, and this he's running off the walls. So I said to him, Mendy, I said, you're not letting your bunkmates go to sleep. You're not letting your friends go to sleep. You're all this jumping. And normally the idea is, because you have friends, you don't want to disturb your friends. You don't want to lose that relationship, so you'll follow along. So he said to me, as he kept on going, he goes, I don't have friends. And he jumped off. Then he kept on going, and I was like, so what ended up happening? I was like, oh, that's so interesting. That's a weird thing to say. Like, I don't have any friends. That's a pretty sad thing to hear. And I remember this was it's a good 20 years ago. This happened. And I remember I told my co-counselor, I told him the story, and I said, you know what? I'm going to work on being his friend. You know what? Like, at least you have one friend. Like, I feel bad. And that camp was only 2 weeks in Melbourne. In those days, at least, I don't know what's going on now. And I walked on it, and what happened was I changed my perspective on him, and I noticed a lot of things that he was doing weren't like essentially bad. It was just the circumstances or what's happening, or his energy, he has a lot of energy, and people stirring him up. And I looked from a different perspective, and I showed him that I care about him, and he changed, he transformed. He was one of the best kids in the bank. And one of the things that happened, and this is that idea. I said to him, every morning after breakfast, you have to go back to the bank and clean up your area, suitcase and whatever, your bed, make your beds, and it was important to do. And so every morning, so for me the rule was, once you cleaned, you come, you tell me, I see it, and if it's acceptable, then you can go and play until learning classes. But I didn't do it. It just didn't happen. I don't know what happened, but I didn't do it. I never had to worry about it. And one day, I'll never forget this. One day, someone told me to come to the room to check, and it was in the same room as his, and I went to check. And I saw, so this guy said, yeah, it's good. But I saw this guy, Mendy, that we became good friends, and his stuff wasn't cleaned up properly. He had already left. He had already gone to play. I didn't have to say anything. He was always just did it. So then I see he didn't do it. And I felt very hurt by it, because I trusted him, and he lost we had gained some trust, and we lost it. So I came to him, I said, Mendy, what happens? I didn't tell him off. I said it, and this wasn't, I don't think I thought about this too much, but it came out perfectly. And I said, Mendy, I said, I trusted you. That I didn't have to speak to you about it. I said, I gave you something special. Then everyone else has to tell me, but you didn't have to tell me. And you didn't. Look what happened. And you didn't do this. And suddenly I see that you sort of broke the trust, and you didn't clean up properly. And I looked at his face, and he was broken, but in such a good way. In his head, I could tell he was processing. He was like, hey, I finally made someone to care about me. Finally have someone that cares about me, that really hears me and sees things from my perspective, and is giving me the time of day. And I broke it. And he put his head down in shame, and he's like, I'm really sorry. And you could tell, he wasn't sorry he got caught. He was sorry that he broke that relationship, and he fixed it, and he went back again. Everything was good after that. I think this is an important lesson that we have to say for ourselves, that what I did to him, and what the Frierdiker Rebbe did, what the Rabbi Shah did to the Frierdiker Rebbe, and what we have to do ourselves, and I can do it also to our kids, is show them that they're worthy, that they're greater than what they think. And that's what we have to work on ourselves. That when we see our action, we don't say, oh, I'm not good because of my actions. Really, I'm so much better. And I can be a carbon from the Eibishter. And really, it all comes from Mikem, from me, that I can do it. And I can tell myself, hey, when are my actions going to be on the level of Avram Yaakov? If we think we're nobody, me, Avram Yaakov, there's nothing further than the truth. But the reality is, it isn't further from the truth. The truth is that we can be on that level. And we have to push ourselves to try to reach as high as we can. The mitzvah Hashem, by all of us, we should recognize the Avram mitzvah Yaakov within us and push ourselves to go get there and enjoy the process. Have a great day.